Hello guys, welcome back to my channel Speaking Books. For more than 70 years, the rock solid time tested advice in this book has carried thousands of people who are now famous peoples day up their ladder of success in their business and personal lives. Whether you are a teacher, student, employee, boss, leader, politician, salesman, or a businessman, the book is for your behavioral transformation. This book is divided into 4 parts, so let's begin with the first part of the book.
Part 1 Fundamental Techniques in Handling People. The Chapter 1 If you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. The first incident. John Wanamaker, founder of the stores that bear his name, once confessed that he learned 30 years ago that it is foolish to scold. He had enough trouble overcoming his own limitations without fretting over the fact that God has not seen fit to distribute evenly the gift of intelligence. Wanamaker learned his lesson early, but author personally had to blunder through this old world for a third of a century before it even began to dawn upon him that 90 times of 100 people don't criticize themselves for anything, no matter how wrong it may be. Criticism is futile because it makes a person defensive and usually makes them strive to justify themselves. Criticism is dangerous because it wounds a person's precious pride, hurts their sense of importance, and arouses resentment.
B.F. Skinner, the world-famous psychologist, proved through his experiments that an animal rewarded for good behavior will learn much more rapidly and retain what it learns far more effectively than an animal punished for bad behavior. By criticizing, we don't make lasting changes and often incur resentment. Hans Selye, great psychologist, said, "As much as we thirst for approval, we dread condemnation." You will find thousands of examples of futility of criticism. Let's look example of the teapot dome oil scandal. It kept the newspapers ringing with indignation in the early 1920s. It rocked the nation. Within the memory of living men, nothing like it had ever happened before in American public life. Here are the bare facts of this scandal.
Albert B. Fall, Secretary of the Interior in Harding's cabinet, was entrusted with the leasing of government oil reserves at Elk Hill and Teapot Dome that had been set aside for the future use of the Navy. Did Secretary Fall permit this competitive bidding? No. Instead, he handed the fat, juicy contract outright to his friend Edward L. Doheny. And what did Doheny do? He gave Secretary Fall what he was pleased to call a loan of $100,000. Then, in a high-handed manner, Secretary Fall ordered United States Marines into the district to drive off competitors whose adjacent wells were sapping oil out of the Elk Hill reserves.
These competitors, driven off their ground at the ends of guns and beyond it, rushed into court and blew the lead of the Teapot Dome scandal. A stench aroused so wild that it ruined the Harding administration, nauseated an entire nation, threatened to wreck the Republican Party, and put Albert B. Fall behind prison bars. Years later, Herbert Hoover intimated in a public speech that President Harding's death had been due to mental anxiety and worry because a friend had betrayed him. When Mrs. Fall heard that, she sprang from her chair, she shook her fists at fate and screamed, "What? Harding betrayed by Fall? No, my husband never betrayed anyone. This whole house full of gold would not tempt my husband to do wrong. He is the one who has been betrayed and led to the slaughter and crucified.
There you are. Human nature in action. Wrongdoers. Blaming everybody but themselves. We all are like that. So, when you and I are tempted to criticize someone, let's realize that criticisms are like homing pigeons. They always return home. Let's realize that the person we are going to correct or condemn will probably justify himself or herself and condemn us in return. When dealing with people, let's remember that we are not dealing with creatures of logic. We are dealing with creatures of emotion, creatures bristling with prejudices and motivated by pride and vanity.
Any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. But it takes character, self control, to be understanding and forgiving. A great man shows his greatness, said Carlyle, by the way he treats little men. Instead of condemning people, let's try to understand them. Let's try to figure out why they do what they do. That's a lot more profitable and intriguing than criticism. And it breeds sympathy, tolerance, and kindness. To know all is to forgive all. As Dr. Johnson said, God Himself does not propose to judge men until the end of His days. Why should you and I? Principle 1. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
The chapter 2. The big secret of dealing with people. There is only one way under the high heaven to get anybody to do anything. Did you ever stop to think of that? Yes, just one way. And that is by making the other person want to do it. Of course, you can make someone want to give you their watch by striking a revolver in their ribs. You can make your employee give you cooperation until your back is turned by threatening to fire them. You can make a child do what you want it to do by a whip or a threat. But these crude methods have sharply undesirable repercussions. The only way that author suggests that can get you to do anything is by giving you what you want. And what do you want? Sigmund Freud said that everything you and I do springs from two motives: the erotic urges and the desire to be great.
What do you want? Not many things, but the few things that you do wish. You crave with an instance that it can't be denied. Some of the things most people want to include, which is health and the preservation of life, such as food, sleep, money, and the things money can buy, life in a hereafter, sexual gratification, the well being of our children, a feeling of importance. Almost all these wants are usually gratified, all except one. But there is one longing almost as deep, almost as imperious as the desire for food or sleep, which is seldom gratified. It is what Freud calls the desire to be great. It is what Dewey calls the desire to be important.
Appreciation may help you to lead success. One of the first people in American business to be paid a salary of over $1 million a year was Charles Schwab. He had been picked by Andrew Carnegie to become the first president of the newly formed United States Steel Company in 1921. Why did Andrew Carnegie pay $1 million a year or more than $3,000 a day to Charles Schwab? Why? Because Schwab was a genius? No, because he knew more about the manufacturing of the steel than other people? Mere nonsense. Charles Schwab told the author himself that he had many men working for him who knew more about the manufacturing of the steel than he did. Schwab says that he was paid this salary largely because of his ability to deal with people. Dale asked him how he did it. He considered his ability to arouse enthusiasm among his people. There is nothing else that so kills the ambitions of a person as criticism from superiors. He never criticized anyone. He believed in giving a person incentive to work.
Is appreciation and flattery is equal? We nourish the bodies of our children and friends and employees, but how seldom do we nourish their self-esteem? We provide them with roast beef and potatoes to build energy, but we neglect to give them kind words of appreciation that would sing in their memories for years like the music of the morning stars. But it doesn't mean that you have to behave always in a font of appreciation. Some people are so hungry, so thirsty for appreciation that they will swallow anything, just as a starving man will eat grass and fish worms. The difference between appreciation and flattery, that is simple. One is sincere and the other is insincere. One comes from the heart out and the other from the teeth out. One is unselfish and the other is selfish. One is universally admired and the other universally condemned.
Emerson said, "Every man I met is my superior in some way. In that I learn of him." If that was true of Emerson, isn't it likely to be 1,000 times more true of you and me? Let's cease the thinking of our accomplishments, our wants. Let's try to figure out the other person's good points. Then forget flattery. Give honest and sincere appreciation. Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. And people will cherish your words and treasure them and repeat them over a lifetime. Repeat them years after you have forgotten them. Thus, Dale defies the second principle: give honest and sincere appreciation. Remember this principle, and you will never disappoint any relation.
And that's all for today. Hope you liked it and don't forget to like, subscribe and share. We'll meet soon.